Hey guys, we're back and this is it. The grand finale where it ties back to the original movie and Godzilla dies. Godzilla versus Destroyah.
Ooh.
Or Death Destroyer if you want to go by that, but it's mostly Destroyah. Not Destroyer because you can't copyright that, but Destroyah. As the oxygen destroyer that killed the original all so long ago, turns out it mutated creatures. So in a lot of ways, Shirazawa trying his best. If Godzilla wasn't around, he would have destroyed Tokyo many years later.
Yep, it's these sort of unforeseen consequences of using new technologies to ease in walking on two legs.
And I'll just tell you this, basically giving a heads up, Birth Island, what we just saw them on, is destroyed. And Godzilla is ready to reach meltdown.
Oh,
and
boy.
Junior is missing. What's going to happen? We'll see as we get into the final movie. See you guys on the other end.
He knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Guys, first, a moment of silence. That best one.
Best one.
Franchise.
Yeah.
Better than Destroy.
Mm-hmm.
Better than Mechagodzilla. In fact, probably want to bump up Mechagodzilla a little bit because of how close it was to this one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is how you end it.
This really is how you end it.
If they ties back to the first one in a way that makes so much sense. The continuity is so strong here. They bring back characters, and you continue on. I'm still a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it's just like they bring together previous threads. They sort of have the looming threat of you basically know that Godzilla being out is a foregone conclusion, and now it's just a matter of like
when and how devastating.
Yeah, and it's just like the human side is just desperately trying to manage both.
Coming up with crazy, stupid ideas that you think like, but they keep on saying, what choice do we have?
Yeah, it's just like they really like are at the brink, or it's just like, yeah, they're seeing like the consequences of like all of their previous decisions coming back.
And then Junior. We're seeing him come into his own.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened to him?
He just got dropped into a plant by Destroyah, and he
devastated, and then he dies. But we'll get to the ending. We'll get to the ending last.
Mm-hmm.
A destroyer. Devastating. Worse, even more. I cannot say more insidious than Space Godzilla, because it's hard to tell, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but definitely a lot more devastating.
It is the devil.
Yeah.
It is the devil. And the fact that, just think about the fridge horror. If Godzilla wasn't around, if this second Godzilla, was not around,
then humanity would be screwed. They'd just be faced with basically the consequences of their own actions incarnate.
Exactly. And Shirazawa, he did his best, but not even he could have predicted
this happening.
But I do like that they make it clear it's a good thing they did it underwater. If they did it on land, it would have been more devastating. It had to be underwater. And there's so much that's being asked about, the questions raised about stuff. A lot of times they do drop it off, but it's dropped off for a good reason here and there. Like, oh, you shouldn't, like, the scientist is creating something that's very much like, you know, the oxygen destroyer. But he's like, I'm not going to make it. And they're like, don't make it. I'm not going to. He's a little shaky at first, but he gets better as it goes on. And then later on, it's like, and then when they bring up the suggestion of we need to use it to take out Godzilla, you're like, that's a dumb idea, but you also realize, what choice do they have?
Yeah, it's just like, do they have any better ideas?
Yeah, what else can do it? And I'm sorry guys, this has just been emotional, hasn't it?
I mean, I felt it too, I really felt it too.
Yeah. And again, I've seen this a bunch of times, but it's been a long time since I watched the entire Heisei series in order to just build up to this. And it was a good thing we had Space Godzilla. I could not stand if it was just as dark leading into this. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that was just sort of like, the breather, the palate cleanser before the end.
And poor Miki.
Yeah, she's just been through so much throughout this entire series.
And then find out that her powers are leaving. And then she has this new girl come in who has already had her life planned out. Like, I can't wait to lose my powers and have a normal life. You can see Mickey's like, rub it in. Which tells you that things probably didn't go so well from the last movie, which to be expected. It was a budding romance. Wasn't guaranteed. But you can still tell it's just a reminder of like, I've been at this since I was 17. I had your optimism.
I would basically gave up my normal life to do this.
Yeah, focusing entirely on Godzilla, especially once Baby came into the picture. She began, because when you look at it, she was different before Baby. Before Baby, yes, she cared about Godzilla, but you felt like she was just like, I'm just a helping hand. Once Baby came in, that became her obsession. For the better, though, in the long run. It was for the better, but what about the tie-in when seeing Emiko again? How was that?
Oh man, that just really brought everything home and brought the weight of the first movie back into it.
But what about the fact that Shirazawa sacrificed himself and telling her to be happy was for nothing?
Yeah.
In a way, a lot of this says Shirazawa's sacrifice was for nothing. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Because she ended up being alone.
Yeah. I think they said in the movie it was a waste of a good man.
Now, you think, of course, that's harsh, but I have to agree with the kid on that one. In the long run, I mean. In the immediacy, you get it, but in the long run, given the fact that Emiko was all alone and eventually someone else who came up with something similar to what he came up with, it was a waste. Because it's that notion of you can burn your notes.
Yeah, humanity's
always going to come
just
up.
Like, eventually somebody is going to retrace the steps to get there. It's just a matter of
when, how, exactly. And I like that scientist guy, he doesn't deny. He's like, oh yeah, I know the comparisons. I see it, but I'm not doing the same thing. But tells you he's not, even compared to other scientists in this era, he's by far the most stable. He's not all about the science like the guy from Biolante, but at the same time, he's not also, he's not in it for the profit. He's kind of like Emiko's father from Biolante, but more reasonable. Does that make sense? Like, he's in it making this new science. And yes, he'll understand the negatives, but he's not going to pursue the negatives.
It's just like
if he was in Emiko's father's spot, he would consider it, but he would never pull the trigger on what would lead to Biolante. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Guess what? That's what it shows here. It says like, yeah, I know how to make an oxygen destroyer. I'm not ready to do it, and two, I have no intention on doing it. I'm just trying to work on the positives. But yeah, and then what about the Super X3 and bringing back the guy? Speaking of Biolante, bringing that guy back.
That was awesome.
I forgot his name now, but you know who I mean.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean.
And in fact, he's played by the older brother of the actor. Kind of fitting since he's older here. But they never say his name, but you know it's him from the hat.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the Super X3, the fact that, isn't it funny? Of the 3 Super X's, the first and the third one were the most effective, and neither one were meant to attack Godzilla.
Yeah.
But the second one that was, it was
Yeah,
good.
Jack
It was
of all
good.
trades is a master of
none.
of none, but far better than to be a master of one.
Exactly. And again, but yeah, once Destroyer shows up, I mean, they build up to it very effectively, don't
Like
they?
they say, oh shit, there's some kind of like life forms that didn't need oxygen, and now it's just
It's
like,
had it and it's mutated by it.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think about the more terrifying redoing of the fish take sequence?
Oh man, holy shit.
Because that last one, you had the bubbles covering it up. This time, you're seeing it.
Yeah, this time you're seeing the skeletons, and you can have all the special effects rendering it and all the gory details.
And having it pop, 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 pop. Which in this case, I think it's devastating because these things are eating it, whereas opposed to the Oxygen Destroyer, which was just destroying it. And then we get the Xenomorph form.
Ooh, them running rampant over the city was just, it was skin.
And I think this is the perfect balance. I think this is the perfect balance of setting up and building up the other monster, but still having Godzilla around. I think because they open up with him right away, I think.
Yeah, and sort of establish that each one represents separate threats, and basically the idea is to kind of get the 2 threats to cancel each other out.
Exactly. But yeah, then Junior. I adore Junior in this.
Junior is the best he's ever been.
Yeah, he's not full-grown adult, nowhere near the height though. That's what, isn't that always surprising when you see how tight he is? I think, would you say he's about as big as Godzilla was in 1985?
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Because that's about because when you look at his height and compare him to the buildings, it's comparable to how Godzilla was in those ones.
Yeah, it's just like he's not as amped up on stuff. That makes sense.
Exactly. And yeah, seeing him triumph over the Destroyer was amazing. You're just like, yes! And then when you see Godzilla show up, it's like, Dad, I did it! Good job, son!
Yeah.
But then when the full-grown adult Destroyer shows up, first of all, the music.
Oh, yeah.
Ikafube's best. Before we get to the final one, though, but the Destroyer's theme, it felt like Satan had come to Earth, didn't it?
Yep.
And then what he does to Junior, just drops him and then attacks him. And Godzilla, he's crying.
Not even Space Godzilla was that bad. At least he only trapped the kid.
He was probably going to kill him later, obviously, but not immediately. Then again, no, Junior didn't attack him, though.
That's fair.
Or little Godzilla didn't attack him then. So he probably felt like, get out of my way, brat. But Junior did, so that probably...
Junior is actually a threat here.
So that probably... So it tells me if Space Godzilla was there and it was Junior instead, he probably would have done the same thing. We don't know. But Destroyer, though, it's hard to tell if he has a brain going in there or not. If he's a sadist or just acting on instinct. I say a bit of both. Because he was definitely acting on instinct during the final fight. Because you do not shoot someone in the back. That's not instinct. That's malicious intent.
But it's just like, obviously he wouldn't have that right off the bat. The mutated organisms are still kind of reconstituting, but once it's all together, it's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear, yes. And then Godzilla's meltdown.
Oh my gosh.
That CGI is still effective, isn't it?
It really is.
And the fact, you just wince when you see him literally, the skin falling off.
Yeah, it's just like he's falling apart.
And then that last roar.
Yeah, you can tell how agonized it is.
It's pain. And then you see his heart literally explode when he's doing it. It's like, and right after losing his son.
Yeah, it's just like...
I have nothing left. And that's where you could so tell he's... Because we see something we never saw. He does one breath that's not even shooting outward. It's like fire. You remember that?
Yeah.
I don't think we ever saw that before, where it's like barely coming out. So it's like he's shooting fire in pain, emotional pain. But then it looks like he left Tokyo Ghost Zone at first. But then it turns out, guess who was still alive?
It's Junior!
And now Junior is replacing his dad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because where else was the radiation gonna go to?
Exactly, because otherwise that'd be a horrible ending. But yeah.
It just sort of ends with we see the silhouette of the now more beefed up Junior.
And it proves the Futurians and why it tells us why the Futurians said why Godzilla never devastated Tokyo.
Because
it wasn't
Godzilla.
That
it
we've been
was
Junior, who thanks to Miki has a love and appreciation for humans. He's not like his dad. Now, of course, my guess is he's in a don't piss me off. I won't come after you guys, but I'm going to avoid you guys as best as possible. You guys get that feeling from him? It's like, you know, because if you notice, he never once went on land until they had to coax him there.
Yeah.
So yeah, how was this for the grand finale?
It was everything you'd want in a grand finale.
And it still left the door open. For, you know, it's like the adventure continues.
Yeah, it's just like, and you can just sort of imagine the kind of adventures that Junior is going to have then.
You know, I gotta say, given some of the stuff we once talked about with our Gamera stuff, just imagine Gamera and Junior and Toto.
Oh man.
Imagine those two getting along.
They would.
I think they would. I do think. Now, granted, I think Junior would get along with any version of Gamera, but I think Toto especially. Because Toto's almost no different, except it's all in one movie. When you really think about it, right?
Yeah, it's just like, makes a bond with a kid and then fights for him.
Exactly, and still goes through an adorable phase. In this case, well, he was all adorable, let's be honest, compared to, no, even Junior was. Because even when he was an adult, he still looked adorable.
Yeah, it's just like...
He's mini. He's mini Godzilla by that point. But yeah, this was just an incredible way to end this era. And why do you see why I love this era? This from start to end.
I understand it now.
Tune in next time as we go over our retrospective on the Heisei trilogy. We've got a lot to talk about. Probably even more than Showa, which is saying something.
Yep, they really went for quality over quantity this time.
Well, see you guys then.